welcome to the presentation of the first quarter 2018 results from Funcom. My name is Conan Exiles and I'm the CEO of Funcom, and with me is Stian Drageset.
Good evening to you all.
Yeah, as usual we're here at 8 p.m. Oslo time, maybe morning somewhere else, but here in Oslo we are in the still sunny, or still a lot of light out there. The Q1 results were published half an hour ago, as you might have seen. So we will go through the presentation and we'll be open for questions either through our email investor@funcom.com or directly on the Twitch chat, which can be a bit noisy. So if you want to make sure your question is heard, it is always better to send it to the investor email address, investor@funcom.com. So without further ado, as usual, please acquaint yourself with the risks and this slide that explains that this presentation can contain forward-looking statements, and those should be taken carefully, and you should consider the risks involved with those possible forward-looking statements. We won't spend a lot of time on this. We will go straight into the highlights. So as you might have seen already, Conan Exiles launched on May 8th, just a couple of weeks ago, and has sold in total since its early access launch in January 31st last year 1.4 million units. That is across all platforms, and will soon be Funcom's best-selling game to date. I'll go into details about what that means a bit later, but we are of course quite happy with that result and with the positive reception of the game. Mutant Year Zero Road to Eden was announced, and both from a review point of view and then shown to the press during the quarter. It has received a lot of favorable interest, and it's still on track to be launched the second half of this year. We announced the publishing of a Conan game, in development together with the industry veterans Petroglyph and the legendary figures that brought us games such as Dune 2 and Command & Conquer. And that game is scheduled to be launched in the first half of 2019. Then on the financial side, we've had a very positive development in the equity, an increase of $21.5 million. That increase comes mainly from three operations. One, they are not. Sorry, there's apparently a technical detail here.
Apparently the slides weren't showing, but I think we got it sorted now.
Finger not in button failure. It's corrected now. Just like launching a game, even doing a Twitch presentation, sometimes the technical issues. Not sound this time around at least, but there was a button that wasn't pushed. But back on track. Equity increase of $21.5 million was due to three major operations. The private placement with Swedbank Robur of 88.4 million kroner. The cashless acquisition of the 50% of a company that has the rights to the Conan the Barbarian and many other IPs, and the conversion of $3 million of bonds into equity, which means that the total bond or debt, long-term debt left in the company is now only $0.6 million. And in terms of Q1 itself, the Q1 was EBITDA positive, despite the intense focus on the preparations and launch of Conan Exiles. So we consider that to be a good result for a quarter that had very little sales activity. And we'll go straight into the financials. And financials are Stian's domain.
Yeah, so I assume you all want to hear more about Conan Exiles launch, and we'll get into that, so I'll cover the financials quite quickly today.
Now everyone loves EBITDA and EBIT
and
you know those strange words.
So someone have to cover that also. So anyway, the revenues are 2.7 million, a bit down since last quarter, but it's a quiet quarter without any seasonal peaks or revenue launch related activities.
Yeah, and last year the same quarter had 2 months of Conan Exiles launch, so of course the last year's Q1 was very strong.
Yeah, you see there's a big difference from Q1 last year, which is due to the early access. And as we said, we had the positive EBITDA, and that's the earnings before amortization is a key difference there to the EBIT and the profit. And this year we, of course, we've been very much focused on Conan Exiles preparations for the full launch. But in Q1 we also invested in Petroglyph game and in the Mutant launch. So there was, despite a lot of investments for future launches, we had a positive EBITDA. And of course, we're working to get even more games out there to have more stable revenue, to be profitable every quarter. But this is how far we are right now. And you mentioned it, Rui, that the cash and equity has been increased significantly. Cash is up to 16.5 million. That's before Conan Exiles launch. So of course that gives us a sound foundation that's very, very good for building blocks, so we can now both support Conan Exiles going forward, but also at the same time we have the capacity to invest in other games. And equity is up 25 million due to the transactions. We've covered them in some detail before. But the effects is partially that the equity goes up. In the private placement from Robur is straightforward. Cash increases equity. And also the investment into Heroic Signature, the IP rights, is booked on the balance sheet. As it's a joint venture, it's booked as an investment, and in the joint venture it is booked as IP, and it's on an equity accounted method for those who are into accounting specifics. And it's good to be almost debt free. And I think that's it for this slide. And then my favorite slide has now gotten even better. So what we see here is the blue bars is the starting around 2 years ago, minus 10 million in equity, and then it has gone up to 13 million last quarter, which is also already a great turnaround story that we initiated now a couple of years ago. And now we have even more than doubled the equity, so we're at 35. Completely different situation the company is now than a couple of years ago. And at the same time, in the opposite direction, we see the debt has gone from 14 million and now closing down to zero. It's 0.6 million left, and that has to be converted or repaid before the end of the year. So by the end of the year, we will be debt-free in terms of having no interest-bearing debt.
Which is great. I mean, the debt has been a big cloud over Funcom for a long time, and the negative equity was a terrible sign. It doesn't have any immediate impact in the business, but it was something that investors always asked me, why do you have this here? And we've been working to fix it, and it's I'm very happy to see that it's basically fixed now, both the equity and the debt. So
now it's fixed, so we can do what we really care about, and that's making great games. Yep. That will attract the gamers and also benefit all the investors, of course.
Yeah. So into the details a bit more of the games and what we're doing. Conan Exiles, going into more there. As I said earlier, it launched successfully. First launch for the first time on PlayStation 4, and it left early access on PC and Xbox Game Preview on Xbox into the full launch status. We announced on launch day that it had sold 1 million units until then on all platforms. And then we're saying today that it has done 1.4 million units. It's important to note here that how things are calculated, and it's not always easy to get the exact numbers because there are delays in which how the reporting of units is done. But we see that including what's called the sell-in to retail and not excluding refunds on PC, we can safely say that we are above 1.4 million units sold, which is already as many units as Age of Conan did in its first 3 years. So for those of you that remember, when Age of Conan went into a free-to-play business model, we announced that the game had sold more than 1.4 million, and we see that we are at 1.4 million on Conan Exiles in roughly a year and a half. So we can safely say that very soon Conan Exiles will become Funcom's best-selling game of all time, which is of course something we're very happy about. Age of Conan was a tremendous game, and it's not to demean that game at all, but and it was a different price point and different times as well. But we are very happy to see that Conan Exiles is tracking very well to beat Age of Conan in terms of units sold, and that on top of it, their players are really liking it. The last point,
perhaps on the sell-in, that means the store has bought it, but not necessarily that the gamer or end user has bought it. We have Koch who handles all the retail stores, and they are confident that what the stores have bought will be sold. But the number that we have used in the 1.4 million is then games sold to the stores.
And as far as I have understood, and my knowledge of retail is of course not extensive, different stores in different countries have different deals of when they pay for these units, and it's very case by case. But the number that is confirmed is that we include this in the sell-in, and of course there's a very good percentage that has been sold through. But those numbers take time to arrive as well, and all that. But the last point, I think, is also something we need to be very proud of, is that the game, we announced at early access launch on PC that after a week we had sold 320,000 units, if I remember correctly, and that it was profitable at that point in time, and it has stayed profitable. So we have done very considerable investment into the game, both to bring it to consoles, to increase the quality, to localize it, to bring it to retail, extensive investments in all fronts. And even with those investments, the project has continued to be profitable, and of course will continue to be profitable based on the trends we see with a good margin. So we're quite happy about that, and yeah. In terms of reception, I've hinted at reception has been good, and I think that's very important. We had a very strong start in early access with many players buying and playing the game, but there were technical issues on many levels that caused a lot of players to leave the game, and hopefully now we hope that they will try it again later. Then we launched on Xbox, and we also had some technical issues. At the time, in one of these quarter reports, I said that we want to commit to do better, and we have. It doesn't mean that the game is perfect. It's far from it. There are still issues that we are working hard to fix. But the improvements we've done, we've listened to the community, we've done some hard calls on prioritizing. The team has done a tremendous job at focusing on the things that would bring a more cohesive experience to the game. And we see that the players and the press see that, and that's very good. But we try to do early access the way it's meant to be, in a way. It's listen to the players, get the feedback, make the game the players want more than the game we think they want. So early access has been helpful from that point of view. It has its own challenges, but the quality has improved, and we hope that will mean that there will be a good continuing process with Conan Exiles, where people continue to buy and enjoy the game, and we keep on improving it and making it better. There was, especially now it's subsided a bit, but some negativity due to the lack of official servers at launch. That is caused by a large influx of returning players on PC, so people that did buy the game originally and then haven't played the game for many months, and now decided to come back, and more than we estimated of those who came back, but also a higher ratio of people playing on official servers versus private servers. And this is not something that it's possible for us to really know, and the data we gathered during early access turned out to not be relevant enough. We estimated based on all the statistics we had, and we hit the good problem to have of not having enough servers, of it being so popular that we didn't have enough capacity. So it's not the worst problem to have when it comes to a game launch, but of course it's something that we shouldn't have had, and it is something that we will improve on. and the team has brought up many servers since then. I think we more than doubled the capacity since the launch day, and we are now at the stage where we see that the capacity we have seems okay. We'll keep on monitoring and adjust based on what players do and players play, and there will be periods of more activity and others of less activity, but so that was a small negative point that we saw at launch.
And of course, it is a trade-off. If you have too many servers, then after a while, the activity on each server isn't as high, which isn't as good for the players. And of course, there is a cost attached to having many servers for a long time.
Yeah, that's a very important thing that not everyone understands, and I think it's important for this group to understand, which is this game is a game as a product more than a game as a service. While our MMOs from before were games as a service, they had recurring revenue that we could use to pay for the running costs of servers. In the case of a game with this type of server model, it is goodwill from us as developers. It is us being nice to the community to give official servers when the player buys once and never pays again, because there is no subscription, there is no in-game store for tiny microtransactions. We will release DLC as I'll speak about in a second, but it is several games in this genre of survival don't have official servers. We made a choice to provide that because we felt that there will be players that would not necessarily have a group of friends or a community at hand to join and get it up in a private server. But we have tried to encourage players and let them understand that private servers, this is a type of game that is a sandbox, a type of game where we want people to play around and experiment and make the game be what they want. So there's a lot of customization possibilities in terms of server settings. If you want to fight more, or if you want to build more, or if you want to progress faster or have a bit more hardcore experience, you can tweak all that by having your own server. And on PC, you can run your own server on your old computer, on an old laptop you have in a cabinet. We made it as easy as possible to rent servers on console and on PC, of course. So we really try to give this as a thing, but it is in terms of a business. The servers obviously cost money, so we need to find the right balance of the numbers of servers to have. And from a player point of view, and something Stian alluded to, having many servers, inevitably some years after launch, those servers won't be as populated, and then we'll need to figure out how we will handle those communities that are now smaller, and be it with server merges or somehow consolidating. And that also takes preparation and takes time, and thus takes cost, takes money. But yeah, it is important to keep in mind that not all games of this type do offer this service. The game is fully playable without official servers, both in single player, in co-op, and with private servers. Then last point here is that the game, the only territory where the game hasn't released yet is in Japan on PlayStation 4. Spike Chunsoft is our partner there, and they were planning for a summer release over there, both in retail and digital. So that will be a bit delayed. They're preparing some activities, and it will be fairly independent from the rest of the territories. Reception in terms of what's visible. We saw that we stayed on the best-selling list on Steam for quite a while. We're still there. Third best-selling game during the launch week. Second best-selling game the week after. We entered the top games list in several territories on PlayStation. We have reviews, this being press reviews, averaging in the range of 7 to 7.5. There's some variation on platforms. Consoles have a bit more performance issues than PC, for example, which is also quite common. And we see that they are a bit divisive, going from 6 to 9 out of 10, depending on the reviewer's opinion. And it is this type of game is always a bit divisive as well, and some people care more about some aspects than others. We think the 7 and a 7.5, considering the type of game and considering our pivoting and our change in what we did when we were early in the early access period to now, we think that is a good result. and that the players at the end of the day are enjoying the game, and that's the most important. We had a solid number of concurrent players playing after launch. We still have a solid number of concurrent players. The trend of concurrent players has been decreasing, but not at the same rate as during the early access period. We don't know how this will behave going forward. It's only 2 weeks since launch, so it's still too early to really make any conclusions and really forecast the player behavior over the next months or years. But the very early signs we have are positive. We for sure. And the game has performed well on Twitch, being on number 4 on as most viewed game. And on this, I think something that's very important is that there haven't been many games that left early access. Most games stay in early access for a very long time. We had said from the beginning that we didn't want to be in early access for a long time. Of course, one thing that no one really knew is, can a game be talked about again? Because you have a first launch, do you get the second launch? And we've pushed very hard to get that attention, to make a better game during the early access period, to be on a platform that we hadn't been before. And so far we can see that it is working. We did have a second launch. It has generated a lot of attention. So we think that has been quite successful in doing what, at least to our knowledge, we haven't seen before, which is taking a game in early access, launching it, and making a splash again. Most games that leave early access, they do this so very anonymously. You don't really see a lot of activities around it. In our case, we're seeing it, which is what we worked for. In terms of marketing activities, there was traditional marketing done in stores with posters and pop-ups and things like that to attract players and let them know that the game is out. We also did many digital activities. We had advertisement on the platform stores. We had videos and ads on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, etc. We had some funny live-action Conan campaigns where he was trying to assemble some IKEA torture device, as we've all seen and done ourselves. Well, maybe not torture devices, but
I hope so. Really.
Maybe some people do that. I don't know.
We can all relate to the difficulty of assembling IKEA furniture for sure.
It's an epic mob. So the reception on those campaigns were good. I think they were a good way to get attention and get a bit of buzz around the game. And we're very happy with how those went. So what's next? On Conan Exiles, there will be continuing updates, bug fixes, and quality of life fixes updates. Quality of life being small things that improve the gameplay experience, but they are not critical bugs. There will be new features and functionality. We will talk more about those when we're ready to. And there will be DLC packs. And features and functionality will be free. They will be patched into the game. That is to keep the players engaged, give them new toys to play with in this sandbox of a world that we made. And then additional optional content will be packaged as DLC. So anything that we'll put in as DLC will not be power. We're not going to sell power or anything like that. It will be things that are completely optional. If you like the game, you're enjoying it, and you think the DLCs are cool, you'll be encouraged to buy it. If not, you don't have to.
And of course, a good concurrent trend in concurrent users. Even though it's only initial signs so far, they're good, and that's promising for potential monetization through DLCs going forward. Absolutely.
So DLCs sell to the people that are playing the game right now. If you're not playing the game, you don't buy the DLC in general. So it's of course important to keep that the number of players playing to be good, and we hope to do that by improving the game, adding new features, adding new things to it, so that the players that are there continue playing, and other players come in, not just from sales and promotions and things we do, but also from seeing that the game has this cool thing that they really like.
Yeah. And from user reviews also, it is obvious that the game is in a completely different state now than early access, which hopefully will keep players playing for at high levels for a lot longer than after early access. That the trend we've seen so far will continue.
And we really listen. There there's a lot of feedback from a lot of players on a lot of different platforms, be it the forum or Twitter or Reddit or Facebook or anywhere. And we read a lot of it. I can say that we read all of it, but we definitely try. So we will do the things the players really want, as long as they make sense, because sometimes what might make sense to a player A doesn't make sense for player B. So everything needs to be vetted. But we are listening and reading and looking at what the community wants and talks about, and we will do those things because we know that's the best way to keep people happy with the game. And the first DLC pack will be released very soon in June. So it will be exciting to see how that goes. That was Exiles on Age of Conan and Secret World Legends. So Age of Conan had a Saga of Zath server that ran from January 2024 to 15th of May. Was very successful in engaging players and increasing revenue. Saga of Zath is a limited time server. Players start and they strive to reach specific things in the game, and they earn rewards that they can transfer to the main Age of Conan server. So it ended, it went well, the players liked it, we liked it, and of course in the big scheme of things, it's Age of Conan is a small game for us in the company, but it's good to see that we can still energize and engage with that community in a good way, both from a player point of view and from a revenue and keeping the game alive point of view.
Definitely, I think this is great. We see we have games that have been going for a long time, and then we can manage to get the sudden spur of activity. And this kind of event is something after this success we'll definitely look into on this game, but also the other live games.
Yeah.
And now we have a great team looking into what opportunities there are and trying different approaches, and we'll be. We both have a longer term plan, but we'll be really focused on trying and seeing what the gamers want and what really fits
I mean,
appetite.
And these games, Age of Conan and Secret World and the Anarchy Online, are getting old, and of course, and there are limitations in what we can do as well within the budget constraints. But I think the people that have been working there and the team that is there now has shown great creativity in doing very interesting activities that work. So we will continue doing that. So on Secret World, there was the Dawn of the Morning Light issue, the first content update to be added in over 2 years to the main story. It was well received by players. That combined with other things that had been done on Secret World, it has worked well. And we are then planning more content and events for Secret World Legends going forward, but also on Age of Conan and on Anarchy Online, we also have specific things in mind to do in the next in the coming months. On publishing, so Mutant Year Zero: Road to Eden was revealed. It is a tactical adventure game. It got widespread pickup in the gaming press. The CGI trailer went viral with millions of views. It has a very unique setting, characters, a mix of strategy and adventure that was quite well received. We did a live demo to press at GDC in March. That was we got very positive feedback from the press. The video that we released of a long gameplay session of half an hour was also very well received. We got previews in major digital, but also in physical magazines. And we are continuing to do the marketing push and the PR push before launch. So E3 will be the next marketing beat. We'll do a hands-on demo with the press, and there will be more activities leading to a launch that will be the second half of the year. On PC, Xbox, and PS4 simultaneous launch, digital only, no retail. So that's what's in store for this game.
From a financial point of view, of course, I'm both very happy with the positive reception the game got, and also that we don't have to wait 5 years for another huge game, but that we have something just coming up in the next few months. So both are very good for the company.
Absolutely. We announced a cooperation with Petroglyph in order to make a Conan game. We haven't given many details about this, and we won't give many details now. At some point, the game will be ready to be revealed, and then we'll do so. Petroglyph is a very well-known developer of real-time strategy games, founded and run by the people that were behind in Westwood Studios on Dune 2, Command & Conquer, Red Alert, and some of those classic games that many people have played. So they are a very solid team. We're very happy to work with them, and very excited at what they're doing. Game is planned to launch also quite soon. First half of 2019 is very soon. And when we're ready to make a splash with what the game is, we will do so. This is going to be our default way of working for any project. It's what we did with the Mutant game. We will tell the financial market that we establish a partnership to bring a game to market, and then we won't say much until the PR and marketing team think it's wise, think it's the right time, and they have the right assets and the right things to generate attention. So this game is only on PC. This game will not launch on console in the first half of next year.
And you said it was quite a short time until it launches, and the reason that is possible is, of course, partially as they are industry veterans and really know what they're doing, and also they have kind of engines and tools that fit well to the game they're creating now, yeah. And that speeds up everything and also reduces the investment, and even while creating a good game, because it just goes a lot quicker when you have the tools ready.
And of course we help with the Conan side of things. We have a lot of assets, a lot of things that we can use to both speed up production and increase quality. And we with the games we publish and will publish, we always want to bring more value than just being the guy creating the ads. We want to bring value to the developer, so we want to help in any way we can, and we're doing that in this case with a lot of the Conan assets, Conan things that can be reused.
Yeah.
Or tweaked. They're not necessarily directly reused, but they can be the base of what they do and speed up production.
Yeah, and as it has been the case for both games now, both Mutant and this Petroglyph game, we're happy with that, and we're also, it's important for us to have a great working relationship with the companies we work with, and we encourage any great game developer out there to approach us, but also approach the companies we work with and hear their story, what it's like to work with Funcom, and that we actually do provide additional value than the money and the publishing part.
Yep. Then in terms of future outlook, we've talked about this before a bit. In Funcom Oslo, there will be a new game using Conan IP. Pre-production has been pushed second half of the year because of Conan Exiles. We said this before as well. And in North Carolina, a new project was greenlit and entered pre-production in March. We're still hiring for that team, but most key positions are full. Full production is scheduled to start late this quarter or next quarter, depending on staffing speed. It's a co-op, 4-player co-op shooter with a premium business model, using an IP that we control through heroic signatures, but it isn't Conan. Well, a shooter with Conan would be hard. You could throw like beer, like jugs of beer at people. That could be fun, or tables. And we don't expect to reveal any information about this this year, only closer to when we're ready to do a big splash, just like with everything else.
Yeah, and this is a slide that is familiar to some of you, but it shows our revenue streams and the way that the strategy has developed over the years to make the company more robust. So the bottom bar is internally developed PC games that we've done for a long time, but we've changed from having a 5-year development time to now around 1 to 2 years. And then we've added the second layer, which is console development. So early access, Conan Exiles was then first released on PC, but also Xbox and PlayStation 4. And that we aim to do to not all the games, like not for Petroglyph, but for most, and when it makes sense. But at least it then gives a much bigger market, roughly doubles the market. Whereas, of course, the development investment is much more efficient when you have a larger market. Despite there's always cost to bring to console also, but kind of the base is then shared for both games, or both channels. And then the third is the co-development and publishing, We've been through a couple of examples of those, and the top layer is the IP, which was primarily based on a deal that we just did with Cabinet, and got access to the great IP portfolio, with Conan being the most prevalent at the moment, and a few other promising IPs that we will work to generate more attention around and more revenue from. And just to help you to look forward, and perhaps some of you even want to create your own forecast on Funcom revenue and so on, we have created this table. So basically it's the same 3 revenue streams from the last slide. To the left, internally developed games on the bottom, co-development and publishing in the middle, and then heroic signatures or IP revenue on top. And then just summarize the key activities in 2018 and 19. So for the PC games, we are right now, of course, focusing on Conan Exiles in Oslo. The new Conan game will be started more and more as we go. But right now the team is focusing on Exiles and DLCs on Exiles. Then in the US, it's a cooperative shooter, which is ramping up the team still. They've got a good start, and they are adding more people to the team as we speak. And next year, the Oslo team will shift the attention to the new Conan game, whereas the US will continue full speed on the cooperative shooter game.
And this, of course, is in addition to the live games and the other small games. These are more this is more focused on the new things.
Yeah, that's a very important point. So the investments that we do on, call it continuous revenues, is on top, or it comes in addition. And then on co-development, we're happy to have Mutant Year Zero coming up soon, and then we will be working with adding more partners. And the spot that we are particularly eager to fill is a second one for next year, when we will start with the Petroglyph. And we are in dialogue with a lot of various publishing partners. But of course, it isn't that much time to get a game launched in 2019. So that limits the options somewhat. But we're still working hard to try to.
We said that we would. Our goal was to reach 2 launches of published games next year, and we said from the beginning that is ambitious. So we will see what we manage. We have one now. We're happy about that, and we want to secure a second one. But the timeline is short. So yeah.
And then on the top here is on heroic signatures. We've already started to receive revenue from that, or you can also think about it as cost savings, as it's on our own games currently, Conan Exiles and Age of Conan. And then Mutant Year Zero also builds on our IP, so that will also come as additional revenue in 2018. And then there are other dialogues and projects in progress, and we'll work on expanding it. And of course, we are very excited to follow the progress towards the Amazon Conan TV series. And the closer that gets to production, and the more when people actually start filming and it reaches that kind of certainty, of course, the
more doors open.
Yeah.
Yes. People start knocking more on our doors.
So rather than kind of jumping on the first opportunity now, we also
we want to have good licensees that really build on the potential of the IPs, and some of that also means that we need to build the IPs to get the good licensees to come on board. So we won't just start the licensing out to any developer. We want to also be a bit selective to have good quality products made with the IPs that we now shepherd as well, right? It's they are now also partly ours. So that's important to keep in mind. But of course, in terms of revenue streams, the big revenue streams are from our own internal games. Then the medium-sized revenue streams is from the published games, and then the small revenue streams from IP licensing. And I can't wait that we will be ready to talk more about the new game in the US office, but that will still be in a while. It will take a while before we talk about it, but it's a very exciting project that we think will be quite cool to get out. And it is let's call it a full-sized project, a full-size internal project. So in terms of investments, the internal games are the large investments we do. The published games will be significantly smaller investments, and then the IP licensing are very, very small or no investments. So together with the size of the
very
investments,
attractive from the financial position,
different risk profiles on them, different upsides on each one of them. But it means we have many eggs in the basket, different sized eggs, and we'll make a great omelette. Wait. Maybe that's not a very good thing to do. Let's move on from the omelette, shall we?
Let's see. Then summarizing now, we have covered that Conan Exiles had a good start and then sold 1.4 million to date. Soon to be the most selling game in Funcom history. If it's not already, we're at the tangent of Age of Conan. And as we are now in the middle of one successful launch, it is great to be very close to two other ones, Mutant Year Zero this year and Petroglyph next year.
Yep.
And then on the financials,
we've been through that.
Great increase in equity and a positive EBITDA. I think that's then it's time to see if there are any questions.
So let me look over here. So there's a question on IP. Do you have the rights to other IPs other than the ones in Heroic Signature's portfolio? We have the rights to the IPs we created. So that is Longest Journey, Anarchy Online, and The Secret World. Longest Journey has 3 games: Longest Journey, Dreamfall, and Dreamfall Chapters. Secret World has also 3 games: Secret World Legends, The Park, and Hide and Shriek. So we do have our own IPs. Do you plan on acquiring the rights to more IPs? We don't have anything that's right now, but acquiring IPs have good value. We really believe in the value of IP, and we will be always looking and always on the lookout for interesting IPs to add to the portfolio. There's nothing concrete right now to talk about, but we'll always be looking for it. How many games do you have in development? We've talked about that. We have you can just look at the slide we just been through. Also, in terms of games planned to release, what we have said, like I mentioned before, is that we plan to release 2 published games a year starting next year, and that it is a bit ambitious for next year, but that is the plan. And for internal games, we're not ready to talk about when they would be ready.
Let's see, there's one question here on have you discussed the transfer to Nasdaq Stockholm? And that is something that we have considered and looked into, both transferring and parallel listing. We see there
not just to Stockholm. We look at where does it make sense for the company to be for maximum shareholder exposure. Where is it easy? Where are the good markets? We look at those things in general. We also see that we have a lot of Swedish shareholders already because it is fairly easy, quite easy actually, for someone in Sweden to buy shares in Norway. So there are no conclusions to be done yet, but we discuss this as part of normal business.
And we have been very positively encouraged by the how easy it is, or seems to be, for the Swedish investors to invest in Funcom. Even a while ago, the 1/3 was owned of the company was owned by Swedes. And we just see that in the last few days, hundreds of new investors from Sweden are pouring in. And that's we can track that through Avanza. which is a Swedish site, and now it's around 1900. It was around 1500 just a few days ago, and the few hundred was added just a short time before that also. So it seems like it's very practical and to invest from Sweden. No practical barriers, and also that there is great interest, and we're very happy with that. And
I would say that we're very happy with the people investing and being shareholders of the company in general. So it's not so much where they are from or which nationality they have. Sweden is an interesting case because it among the Nordics or among Scandinavia and even in Europe is one of the places with the most gaming companies, especially in the stock market. So there's a lot of knowledge among the financial investors in the country there on gaming. So it is we take it as a good sign that knowledgeable investors in gaming invest in Funcom. So that's why we do talk about Sweden, because there is a very large degree of knowledge and experience in gaming companies over there.
And in general, the broader and more diverse shareholder base, the more stable it's likely that the share price is. And of course, we control the share price. We just make everything we can to have stable.
We produce results,
revenue.
and then the share price will be what the share price will be.
Indeed.
When will you confirm E3 participation? I mean, we don't confirm participation in trade shows. We do the trade shows we need to do for that the PR and marketing team thinks we should do for press point of view. We go to many trade shows where we're not necessarily presenting to press. We will never have a trade show plan or anything like that, because what would be the point of that? We will be, as we said in this presentation, we'll be showing Mutant Year Zero to press at E3. But please don't expect that we will be talking about which trade shows we attend or not all the time. If it makes sense for us to talk about being at the trade show, we will do so. That's up to the PR and marketing team. They're the experts at that. Will official servers ever get a larger player cap than 40? We hope so. Let's see. The team is working hard on optimizing a player cap. We want to give a player cap that gives a good experience. We had a player cap that did not provide a good experience in the past. With 40 players, we are able to give a good experience now, and that's very important to us. So we will only increase it when we're very confident that it won't decrease the quality of the experience. How will revenue stream for Japan version of the game be? We don't comment on specific revenue streams. Will the June DLC cost money? Yes, it is a DLC that is a paid DLC. What will it include? You'll see soon. June is very soon. What about AOIP? I don't know what the question is. AOIP is our IP.
Opportunities about monetizing it, perhaps. We don't comment any specific, but we're interested in working with all our IP and anyone who's interested in making games on those.
Yes. Any plans to put in an all-access pass? We don't comment on how we monetize the games on a specific basis, so if anything significant changes in any game, you'll know when it's ready to go out. Could you give an example of a new feature in Conan Exiles? No. Are you planning to tweak PvP more for Exiles? Tweak is a very obvious word. Unobvious, not obvious. Ambiguous, that's the word I wanted. Some people want PvP to be more hardcore. Some people want it to be more casual. Some people want it to appeal to an aggressive raid build, base raiding type of gameplay. Some people want it to be more about players fighting and less about players destroying buildings. So tweaking, yes, we'll continue tweaking PvP to what we think is the experience that the players on official servers should have. And then players are encouraged to tweak PvP themselves on their private servers. How is the split on Secret World players between Steam and Funcom's own client? We don't comment on that. Any update on Secret World TV series? No. If there was an update, you would know. Hollywood can move very slowly at times. Any plans to make a season pass for Conan Exiles DLC? There are no current plans for season pass, or we would have mentioned it. Do you have continued plans with Bearded Ladies? We have lots of great plans, but the current great plan is to launch Mutant Year Zero Road to Eden. Do you know of any analyst coverage coming? We do not know of any analyst coverage coming. We will welcome any coverage done by anyone. And if you don't cover us, please watch our amazing Twitch streams, because it's an amazing view in how we work. Can you maximize the screen again? What does that mean?
We're focusing, we're showing the slide and not
Show who?
and
Show
not
us?
and not our beautiful faces.
No, but then they can look at us.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what they were asking. They're probably asking something else, but I don't know. When can you see a new game, the Anarchy Online universe? I don't know.
Well, I'm glad we got the question, because we always get it on
Of course.
each
I mean,
presentation.
I'm sure the chat is being spammed with AO2, because it always is. But I mean, we don't have anything to talk about right now. Do we want to make more games in the Anarchy Online universe? Yes.
It's good to see interest in the IP.
Yeah, it's the measuring interest in IP is extremely hard. So choosing an IP for a game is a combination of having the team that really burns for the IP and the IP having enough commercial value. And enough commercial value is hard to measure. We might have grown up with Anarchy Online being one of our first MMOs. It was my first MMO. But many people now haven't. So how much value is there on Anarchy Online for in the gaming crowd out there? It's hard to know.
At least good. There's still value in the current running games. So
and there's recognition on the name and all that. Although anarchy is not a very politically correct word these days. So I think that was it. That was it for the series of questions. If you have any further questions, let us know. And if not, have a good evening.
Yep. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.